Oh, yeah.
Hey, everyone, quickly. We're just giving people a few more minutes to trickle in, but for the purpose of easier seating, if there's a seat in the middle of your row or more internal, I guess, towards the aisle, if you'll just scoot in so that as people come in, they don't have to like cross those and friends and whatnot into my seat. That would be great. We appreciate you all coming out and being patient with patients.
I think They just run
I'm almost like a camera in the garden. So they're trying to say it shouldn't have easy stuff.
Y'all are.
That's not that call.
Slap. J, G, Mom, N, R, 0, 8, 9, 6. Capital T, capital F.
Okay.
Is Tony as a mountain.
So once you get to 5102,
Oh, wait.
then
I'm Cliff Arnett. You're the organizer?
That's right. Yours is same thing.
I work with Bob and Trace and Trey Travis. I have a shooting bases. Bob did an article. Number 2 in the nation, far ahead of New York City. I would like to speak.
2, M, 0, Z, capital T, capital S, lower K, capital P, capital A, 2, capital Q, capital M.
Excuse me, so we'll be starting shortly. We're just waiting for the last few people who are out there trying to make their way in to come in.
I told Nicole she's taking off. Yeah. Good. Okay, that's it. Yeah, I did, yeah.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? My name is Nicole Barnaby. I'm one of the graduate students in the African American and African Studies department. And we just wanted to thank you all for coming out today. As you may have read or heard somewhere, we really just wanted to provide a space because we know that there's a lot of energy and effort taking place in the Columbus area. And we felt like we should provide somewhere for all of these efforts to kind of be consolidated and strengthened in that way. And so again, we want to thank you for coming out. One thing that we do want to ask, because this will be very discussion-based and discussion-oriented, we do ask that everyone respect the opinions of everyone else that are here. And again, we really would like to come up with some tangible next steps, whether they be economic, political, more visible efforts like protests and rallies. But we want to come away from this knowing that we've planned to do something that will, that will really make a difference. Okay, and so now we have Dr. Newsome who will come up and say a few words. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming out. You could be doing something else on this Saturday, but given that Black Lives Matter, I'm glad you're here. I want to say something about, I want to talk about some thoughts I have about this issue. Police killing Black men and boys, other people of color, especially Latino people. A few weeks back, people were talking about the president's power to use executive order. They were talking about that in relation to immigration. And I think that's a good idea. But I think we also should be putting pressure on the president to use his executive order to do something about the killing of Black men and boys and Black people, right? There are transgender people who are Black, who are abused by the police and us all the time. We don't do anything about it. But we need to have some control over what policemen can do. We need to have some say about how they're trained, about the implied bias that they bring to their encounters with people of color. So I hope that, when we are doing our signs and everything, that we'll be writing things that will put some pressure on Obama to use his executive order to do something about the problem that he's dealing with today. The other thing I want to talk about is something personal that I'm doing, and I want to, just say I'm doing it and hope others will join. We've been talking about boycott. People talk about the 11% drop in Black Friday. We don't know if it's because, people decide to keep the money in their pocket because policemen are killing Black bodies. But we hope that had something to do with that 11% drop. But I want to encourage you to keep your money in your pocket.
Mercy.
I also want to say that you can do that while also supporting Black businesses and small businesses. What I'm really asking you to do is a blackout on the chains. You don't have to give Target out money. You don't have to give Walmart out. I mean, you might want to buy some food at Walmart. But you don't need to go there and try to buy an air gun for your son, because you might lose your life. But also, you don't need to go to Walmart, to Sears, to Penny's, to any of these places. And this is a very important time not to do it, because they expect to, be in the black at the end of the season. You don't need to help them do that. So again, I'm asking in terms of just resistance, in terms of just doing something that you can do. I'm asking that you keep your money in your pocket unless you're doing business with a Black business or a small mom and pop or cooperative or something like that. I'm also asking you to do whatever you can with people that you collaborate with to get Obama to step up on this issue. Again, I thank you for being here. I thank our graduate students for organizing this, and I'm going to turn the mic over to one of them.
Okay, now we're gonna have one of the professors in our department, Dr. Ande, come up and speak with you all just briefly about activism.
name is Benjamin Hanley. I've been
The mic.
I was asked by our graduate students to come and interact with you this afternoon about what's going on. First of all, we had a discussion in my class about what's going on, and this is where this all came from. And I challenged my students by saying that I do not agree with the media portrayal of what was going on in New York with Eric Gardner as a murder. And they were surprised when I said that. And I said, well, if you look at the tape, one police officer chokes Eric Gardner, chokes him to death. But he's not alone. There are at least 10 other uniformed police officers there. I'm saying uniformed because there must have been others who are not in uniform. None of those 10 police officers say anything to the choker. Even when Eric Gardner said 11 times, I cannot breathe. They didn't say, oh, hold on, take it easy. They didn't. Instead, almost all the 10 police officers, after hearing that plea to say, I cannot breathe, they reacted by all of them leaning on him, firing on him, firing on the chest to make sure that I can't breathe means I've stopped breathing. So I said, to me, because the other senior police officers are there, including supervisors of this person who was choking him, I said, I don't think this is just a murder. To me, with my poor English, it sounded like an execution. So I said, yes, the media is not talking about this as an execution. So I started with that to say how I was interacting with my students by saying the theme of this afternoon is where do we go from here? So I said, well, you really can't ask that question. Where do we go from here? Unless you know where you have come from. So first of all, we have to see where we have come from. Particularly in view of this lynching, this execution. Because during the lynching, everybody showed up, in their Sunday clothes, okay? Including the governor, prosecutor. They went to go and watch the lynching. Okay? It was supervised, just like what happened in New York. And I said, this was supervised execution of Eric Gardner. So, where have we come from? We have come from slavery, we have come from colonization, and we have come from lynching. Lynching both here in America, but also lynching where we came from, in Africa. I used a picture in my class of the lynching in South Africa in 1883. So lynching was not just here. That is where we have come from. So the next question then is, what did our forefathers do? Okay? And we have to know what they did before we say, where do we go from here? So that we don't just go in circles. And what happened then was that they organized to stop the lynching. That is how the NAACP was formed. Precisely for this type of thing. But not just NAACP. The African National Congress, to which Nelson Mandela belonged, was started as a brainchild of the NAACP. It was started by John Dewey, who came to Ohio, went to Oberlin College, went back. He had witnessed what the professors were doing in 1909. That is the founding of the NAACP. Went back to South Africa and founded the African National Congress. Because what was happening in South Africa was exactly what was happening here. So organizing is a very, very important thing. So the NAACP is associated with WPB. Okay? Now, the ANC was started really as a brainchild, as I said, of the NAACP. But WPB were also in organizing, linked up with people from the country, because he was aware that people in the country were suffering exactly the same problem that our people here were suffering. So they founded the Pan-African Congress. What you may not know is that at the 1945 Pan-African Congress in London, which WPB helped to organize, he also presented a paper by somebody who could not be at that conference. And the name of that person was Solomon Tlaki from South Africa. We were presented Solomon Tlaki's paper at the conference. Was Solomon Tlaki? He was the first Secretary General of the African National Congress. WPB were organized to have Solomon Tlaki come to America for 3 years to understudy him so that he could go back and organize the African National Congress on the blueprint of the NAACP. So what I'm saying, therefore, is the first thing I have to think about is organizing growth. That's what our forefathers did. And to organize effectively. Marcus Garvey, very important. That's the path to go. So, having studied history, what happened before, then we come to now. So, after all this organizing in the past, what happened then? What is happening now? So, what is happening now is what we saw with Trevor Martin, Trevor Martin. Is what you saw with Michael Brown, is what you saw with Eric Garner, is what you saw with the kid in Gilbert. That's it. Right, yeah. So that's what's happening in the country. That's what's happening now. Okay? So after examining what's happening now, that's when we ask that question, where do we go from here? And my suggestion is that we really have to make a decision. And the first decision we have to make is, what do we aspire to? What do we want to see our children tomorrow? What type of life we want them to live? And then after seeing what's happening in terms of police brutality that is done with impunity, because the police officers, as I say, supervise the killing in Iraq. Were there. the guy was gasping, I cannot breathe. So, lean on it. So supervised killing, lynching, isn't it? So then we have to organize by making sure that our youth are protected from this type of police brutality. Making sure that our children will have a bright future tomorrow, better than the life of forefathers today, better than the life we are in. And I've just examined what our situation was in the past, what the situation is today. We don't want that. You have to make a decision that no more. You have to stop this. So I challenge my students every day that that's where you have to start from. Make that decision that no more. We are not going to allow ourselves to be bystanders, to be spectators when this type of thing is going on. I think that's where we go from here. Thank you.
Student in the Department of African American and African Studies. I'm going to introduce another speaker for you guys, and then promise will feed you, and we can break out into groups and really get going. So without further ado, Dr. Curtis Austin, who's also a professor in our department, and his research is in the civil rights era as well as the Black Panther Party. So very relevant to things we're talking about today, right? So welcome, Dr. Austin.
Good afternoon, everybody. All power to the people. Come on, all power to the people. Power to the people. I know. So as Hannah said, I do teach in African American and African Studies here at Ohio State University. I teach courses in Black history, history of the Civil Rights Movement, history of Black Power, and actually I'll be teaching a special course in the spring, history of the Black Panther Party. And so I'm very happy to see all of you out today. I'm very happy to be a part of this movement that we know will succeed. And I am here just to contextualize, actually to pick up on what Dr. Mpande just finished telling you about, and try to explain to you where we've come from, why we're here, and hopefully join some of the discussion to talk about how we can get out of this mess. The first thing that I want to mention is that people ask the question on panels. You have hundreds of pundits on TV. What's wrong with the police? Do we need to give them more training? I can tell you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the police. The police departments across this country work exactly like they're supposed to work. They are a well-oiled machine, and nothing is wrong with them as far as they are concerned, and as far as the people who are in control of the police are concerned. That's right on. They're not broken, but we're going to break them. We're going to keep them from doing that. And I always like to encourage my students to really not believe anything I say. Go look it up for yourself. And if you do your own research, what you'll find is that the police in this country were invented, were created to keep Black people in their place. Not to protect and serve, but to keep Black people in their place. And their place was a subordinate place in slavery and after slavery and segregation. So when you think about the fact that all white men in the South, I'm not as clear on the history in the North, but all white men in the South were required to serve as patrollers at night, to keep Blacks from escaping, to make sure that Blacks didn't break in and steal this or that, and so on and so forth. That was the original police department in this country. There were no jails to speak of in the South. you didn't need jails in the South during this period because slavery was jail. And they weren't really worried about the poor whites. So after slavery, you get something they call the 13th Amendment. And I would encourage you to actually go and read the 13th Amendment. What it says is that slavery is abolished. Then there's a little colon, and then the word except. Well, you know, I could either be, you know, a racist, except, you know, which one is it? Am I a racist or something else? Am I a teacher or something? I either am or I'm not. So slavery, they say, was abolished in 1865, except if you're convicted of certain crimes, right? And if you look at what's going on in this country today with mass incarceration, and you look at how the prison industrial system works, where you have companies like Smith Barney and Chase Manhattan, Bank of America, investing billions of dollars into prison, then you realize that slavery never ended. It just changed its face. There are still people working for this country in federal, local, and state prisons for absolutely nothing. There are some states where prisoners do get 25 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents an hour for the work that they do. And of course, that money is also taxed. You know, how you tax 50 cents, I don't know, but it seems like somebody figured that out. So slavery never ended. And then you bring us to the point where there's Jim Crow, a separate and unequal system that says, this is your place. Your place is inferior housing, inferior education, inferior health care, inferior everything. But now the law says that it's supposed to be separate but equal. Nobody ever tried to make it equal. None of the people in charge of making it equal ever tried to make it equal. They did a really good job of making it separate, right? And Black people and their white allies did something about this and overcame the situation over a period of many, many decades. Even when Black people said, well, the 15th Amendment says we all have the right to vote. You know, if you're over 18 and you're a citizen, it says we have the right to vote. So there's really no need for a Civil Rights Act. You've got the 15th Amendment that already gives us the right to vote. Why do we need another piece of paper to give us that right? That question has not been answered to this day. Why the Civil Rights, the Voting Rights Act, was necessary. The 14th Amendment gives you all of the civil rights you need. There's no reason to have a Civil Rights Act. It was already in the Constitution. And so what I'm trying to say to you about history and these documents is that people can write anything on a piece of paper. You know, this whole everybody's created equal, you know, this is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Yeah, we believe that. But I dare you to find somebody in Washington, D.C. who believes that, from Obama on down. I dare you to go find them. And if they do, they would act like it. And I haven't seen them act like it yet. Perhaps they're afraid to act like it. I don't know, but I haven't witnessed that in my lifetime. So that's just a piece of paper. 15th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, those are words on paper. I talked to you about segregation. The Supreme Court came out and said segregation is illegal in 1954. Absolutely nothing happened. In 1955, they said, well, you know, it's illegal and you got to fix it with all deliberate speed. I was born and raised in Mississippi, and I can tell you it was 1969, the fall of 1969, 14 years later, when that was implemented in a school district. Not in the school districts across the 82 counties of that state. And I can tell you in Louisiana, Alabama, and the other southern states that didn't work. And I also know, having moved north, that it never stopped. Here, you know, they're concentrating on what's going on down south, and segregation was widespread in Cleveland and Dayton and Columbus, and remains today. Well, you got a piece of paper that says it's illegal. So what do you do about that? You got a piece of paper that says you have a Civil Rights Act. You have a piece of paper that says you have a Voting Rights Act. So what I'm trying to point out to you is that you have people who sit down and say, this is what we're going to tell the people. We'll write this down on paper and say, here are a list of rights that you have, but we're not necessarily going to make it possible for those rights to be exercised. And so I'm here today to tell you that no matter what these task forces come up with, no matter what somebody tells you the new training is, you are never going to get the justice you deserve unless you create that justice for yourself. Because they have written things on paper for hundreds of years, and we're still sitting in a room where people can't find the seat to find out where their justice is, right? So I would encourage you not to look toward your elected officials for justice. You know, you look toward them to be accountable and pave your streets and make sure their kids get, you know, a decent education because you pay the taxes. But you're not going to find justice in places like that. So the civil rights movement is bubbling up and fighting against segregation, and they come up with these laws. And finally, you get these laws passed, and nothing really changes. You still have economic inequality. You still have widespread police brutality and murder of Black people. You still have a housing situation in every corner of the United States where there is a significant number of Black people. You can go to Jackson, Mississippi. You can go to Seattle, Washington. You can go to Dayton, Ohio. You can go to Baltimore, Maryland. You can go to Bangor, Maine. Where there are Black people, there's dilapidated housing, poor schools, inadequate health care, you name it. It's the same across the board. That, ladies and gentlemen, it's not even possible for it to be a coincidence. It's not even possible for that to be happenstance. You have to design something as uniform as that. It has to be creative. So my encouragement to you is to turn the focus from what they can do to what you can do, to what you can do personally. What is going to be your commitment to the solution of this problem? Now, is your commitment going to be going to the rally? That's fine. The rally is good. We need people at the rally. Is your commitment going to be giving money? That's fine. We need money. People are going to go to jail, right? People are going to lose their jobs. People are going to have their relationships split up. If you're committed, right? If you're not committed, probably nothing's going to happen to you. You know, rarely does anything happen to someone who's not serious about this kind of thing. Very rarely. They get caught up in the crossfire, but rarely do you see anybody suffering because they're just kind of lukewarm. So you have to think about the fact that you're in this room, there are microphones, cameras everywhere, and this government, since 2001, after Patriot Act 1, Patriot Act 2 were signed, after Homeland Security was created, this government set up an apparatus to keep tabs on you and on me. I mean, people kind of blow off Michael Snowden, and I know my time is in, and I'll take a couple more minutes. But you know, if you try to research and find out what he was saying, he was telling you that you don't have any privacy. You know, and it just started last year or year before last. You know, it's been going on for a long time. So if you would Sprint or T-Mobile or AT&T, you know, you're paying these, and I'm paying them too. These high prices, all your conversations are being listened to. Right? All of your email is being monitored. And some of you, us, I might say, are being followed. So you have to ask yourself, am I ready to go beyond these halting steps of protesting, of discussing, of what have you? Because Dr. Mpande told you, they're telling you how they feel about the situation. You know, they told you when they killed Mike Brown how they feel about the situation. They told you when they killed Eric Garner how they feel about the situation. Now, all of us know somebody can tell you something and mean something else, but Action is supreme. Somebody does something, you got a boyfriend who cheats on you, you take him back, 9.5 times out of 10, he gonna cheat on you again. That's just how it is. It's not black or white or male or female, it's human. If you do it one time, you might just do it again. So, what do I mean by that in the context of what we're talking about? We know the names of Tamir Rice. We know Trayvon Martin, his name. We know Michael Brown. Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner. We know those names. But do we know the names of the 518 other Black people who between 2012 and 2013 that were killed? And these killings were labeled justifiable homicides by cops. Do we know those other names? That's just 1 year. The news tries to make you feel like, well, the chokehold was outlawed in 1893 and this guy, did it, he's in violation. Since 1993, there have been 2,119 chokehold deaths in New York. And you didn't even hear about that. So it wasn't like, this guy used it one time and, we ought to do something about it. This doesn't even include the chokehold deaths from people who were complained about, police officers who were complained about over and over again. These are, the 2,119 are separate deaths. So when you add all of the complaints from the cops who did it over and over, the New York Police Department is telling you how they feel about the situation. And the DA is telling you how he feels about the situation. So I believe Mike Garner's life matters. Eric Garner's life matters. I believe Michael Brown's life matters. But I also believe that the lives of all these other people whose names we do not know matters. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, without the kind of interracial, inter-ethnic movement that I see bubbling up in this room and on my computer and on TV screens across the world, it's not just in this country, that we're not going to succeed unless we put aside our differences and tackle the actual problem. The problem is we are not respected as human beings. That is the problem. And so you can allow another human being to disrespect your life or not. People do things to you for as long as you allow them to do things to you. Now, just give you an example. Here's a young man here. I might not like his jacket, right? I come over there and start slapping him because I don't like his jacket. He has a choice, so let me keep slapping him. Just slap me back to get me off of him, to get under a chair, get away from me, to take off. He has a lot of choices. And he's telling me now, most of y'all can't see that he's gonna keep his chair and keep me off. He's not having it, is what I'm saying. And this is who I want in my corner. I want somebody who's not having it. You can't say, because this is what they all keep telling us, and I'm not encouraging any kind of violence, but every time we see something on TV, don't they say, well, they're nonviolent protesters, right? Are they nonviolent? What's happening with these outside agitators? What is an outside agitator? We're human beings. I care about what goes on in St. Louis. I care about what goes on in New York City. So I'll wrap up what I'm saying with just a little bit of a story. In 1966, the Black Panther Party was founded in Oakland, California, and it was founded for the same reason we're all in this room now. Because the month, October 66, the month before that, from September to October, 7 Black kids were killed in the Bay Area, from Santa Cruz, of all places, San Jose, of all places, San Francisco, of all places. 7 deaths in 1 month, every single one of them a Black child, teenager, every single one of them unarmed, 4 of them shot in the back. 4 of them, all justifiable homicides. So you had an organization who rose up and said, we're not going to take this anymore. They began to patrol the police because it was legal to have a gun. Now, I have researched the laws of Ohio, and unlike most other states, you can actually buy as many guns and as many bullets as you want in this state. I was shocked to learn that. In Mississippi, like 10. If you buy semi-automatic weapons, you can only have 10. In Ohio, you can buy 1 million semi-automatic weapons. In Mississippi, you can buy up to 10,000 bullets. Why you would need 10,000 bullets, I don't know. But in Ohio, you can buy 10 million. It's the law. And you best believe that the people who are going to be watching this broadcast, who are going to be checking us out and saying, oh, did he say something wrong, are going to be looking for an opportunity to say, you know, there's something wrong with what this person is saying. But it is Ohio law. And if it's wrong, then they're wrong. I wouldn't even live in here when they make the law. You know, but I do intend to obey the law and abide by it and benefit from it. I do intend to do that. And I hope that you intend to go beyond where you are now and figure out what your place is in this movement so that we can all have a conversation about what it's like to be peaceful and kind and respectful to each other, rather than what it's like to be violent, like they have been with us, unkind, like they have been with us, and disrespectful, like they have been with us. And so I would encourage you not to take it anymore, just like my colleague, because I don't intend to take it anymore. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Chloe Green. I'm also a graduate student in the department. And we just wanted to thank you for your patience. We just felt like this piece of it was really critical and important to do because as graduate students of Black Studies, scholar activism is important. And so contextualizing the things that we're going to talk about today is really important. And Dr. Austin and Dr. Mponde, we feel both have a wealth of knowledge and expertise to really add to the conversation. And I will say that Dr. Mponde was hesitant to talk, but I strong-armed him because he really does have a lot to offer. And he told me the other day, he said, Chloe, you know, I want everybody to walk away from it understanding that these movements are successful because they stem from the people in this country, people like us. But I reiterated to him, and I know that he understands this, that yes, it does come from the youth, it stems from the youth, but working along with our elders is so important. And recognizing their contribution and respecting that is important. And I had several conversations with him where he was sitting down showing me pictures of him in Stokely just chilling. And, you know, him and Nelson, and he just has so much to offer, and I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do without that knowledge. So I would encourage all of us to seek out our elders and to get that knowledge. So that's all I have to say. And now, we're gonna break out into groups, I believe. So, Nicole, go ahead.
All right, so now, like we said, this is going to be the discussion portion because we feel like that's also very important. And so we're gonna have people directing you out there, but if we could, we're gonna have a group in the bathroom, the conference room here, and a group in the library. And so, and then everyone else will stay here, but we'll also break out into a few different groups so we can speak.
So I'll just pull 10 people, 10 to 12 people who have been standing. If you want to just come with me, we're going to go to the next one. Let's go out and down. 30 and 30. Okay. All about food.
And we'll also be bringing in the pizza and the drinks for you guys while you're in there. And actually, if everyone can hold off for one more second, we do have one more person that would like to speak briefly.
We can take some more people out this way. Wait, Jenna.
Thanks very much to the graduate students and the professors. My name is Cliff Arnebeck, and I work with Bob Petraeus, both attorneys. We've been working for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People at the national level and Jesse Jackson Rainbow Push Coalition since 2004. You might ask, well, why would two Columbus attorneys be working for these national organizations? It's because we are at the epicenter. Columbus, Ohio is at the epicenter of the attack on voting rights in this country. And we began our representation in the 2004 election, which was stolen. And we are the epicenter of the attack on voting rights. And this attack on voting rights is related to the attack on young black males for assassination, for imprisonment, for the destruction of the black community in the inner city. And after our work in the election area, next thing you know, I have represented a young man who was shot in the side of the head by a police officer, unarmed, for riding a bicycle while black in the inner city. I've been counseling with a young man who was shot 7 times by a police officer for sitting on a bench while black in the inner city. For a young man on Martin Luther King Day, 2012, shot in the back twice by a police officer for walking down the street while black in the inner city. We have a problem here. Bob Fitrakis had a police officer who was taking his class at Columbus State, and he had to do a study. So he had him study the police shootings. And guess what he found? Here, Columbus, Ohio, we have 8 times the rate of police shootings of young black males than New York City. 8 times per capita. So I said, Bob, that must mean that we're number 1. Columbus, Ohio, number 1 in police shootings of young black males. So he studied this young police officer studied the whole country. It turns out, no, we're not number 1. We're number 2. Las Vegas, Nevada has more shootings of young black males than Columbus, Ohio, and it's in an article in the Free Press. You can look at it online. Now, I said that these things, this phenomenon of the shooting of young black males in the inner city and the stealing of elections are related. The way they're related is this. After Karl Rove engineered, architected the theft of the 2000 election, there are 2 things that he did. One of his 2 things in his multiple faceted policy position in the White House. One was to get HAVA passed, Help America Vote Act, to create electronic voting machines to hack elections for the next decade, which they've done. The second thing, one of the first things he did was create a thing called Safe Neighborhoods, Project Safe Neighborhoods. And this is what created $1 billion of funds to create incentives for police and prosecutors to shoot and kill young black males in the inner city. And you can look it up on the internet, and that's what's happened. And we are at the epicenter of the shooting of young black males in the inner city. The NAACP worked with the city police, the mayor's office to create oversight, citizen oversight of these shootings. And we couldn't get them to do it. And that's what needs to be done. They will not investigate, because one of the gentlemen said, they're doing what they're trained to do. And we have to have citizen oversight, which says that was unnecessary use of force and it's wrong and needs to be stopped. Thank you.
About 20 to 30, you want to go out this way to the library. There will be other people directing you that way as well. And then the rest of the people in here will break up into some smaller groups once we get some people going.
Everyone is breaking up into smaller groups. So the people towards the front are going to stay in here. About 30 more people are going to go into our conference room right over here, and there'll be people outside directing you. Nicole, are people going into the conference room? And another group going into the library. So if I could have the 3 middle rows stand and make your way to the library, that would be lovely. Thank you kindly.
Oh, yeah. Very much. He's wearing down. I'm trying to get my lunch student out of here.
But you don't want all those same people.
Yeah. Is it okay if I go in the conference room so they continue the live stream?
Thanks.
Or is it no
Bob Craigie is coming over.
Okay.
About 4 or 4.
Do you know where it is?
The conference room is right there.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Siraj and I said no. Siraj and I said
It
no.
might be standing room only. That's okay. You don't have enough.
Actually headed out.
Okay, go to the library.
The library's over this way. Check it out.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll get it to the anymore.
Oh. And we all remember our story. I'm
I don't want to make it dinner. We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
I don't know what's happening. I'm here.
Are there like books? Your books.
Feel free to have pizza that's provided by people. Donato, you have cheese, pepperoni, probably some veggies. Anytime, feel free. Anytime.
Yeah, I'm trying to elevate it. So.
I appreciate it.
I'm not registered, I'm just.
Okay. Voice of the Black
Byron's gonna try to do over there.
You want me to pass it out? Now? Now? Now. All right. Okay, here is a piece done by Tinere. Tinere, we all call him Tinere. You correct me. He's the organizer of the APRP, also one of the legends of struggle. He's one of our mentors. He wrote a piece about the conditions of our people today. I went over it this morning. It's very instructive on strategic outcomes. We don't have enough for everybody, but I will give you everybody my card. I really recommend everyone read this piece. It's very powerful about struggle. And I'll give you my card, email, and I will email it to you.
Right, and if your name is on the email, if you signed in, your name is on the email list, we'll make sure we circulate to everybody too.
Do you guys want some chairs down there?
Did you guys?
Do you folks want some chairs?
Everybody have their food when you get started? Everybody ready? Can I get a check? Can I get a check?
No, it's okay.
All right.
Oh, it's okay. Did you want a chair?
Yeah, for sure.
Who volunteered to be a scribe? Yes, we will begin. Is everybody ready? As we have more people come in. We can go around the circle and introduce ourselves, our organization, or what we're about, and why we're here. I will begin. My name is Aramis Udiata. I'm an organizer with the Ohio Student Association, and I'm here because this is my love and my passion for people.
My name is Jason. I'm a seminary student at the Methodist Theological School in Delaware, Ohio, and I'm here to find out what I need to do to help my brothers and sisters in creation, and also as a spiritual leader.
I'm Sarah. I'm doing a master's in social work right now, and I think that Black Lives Matter and Hispanic Lives Matter, and all this needs to be figured out. Things are kind of fucked up at the moment.
My name is Mark. I actually don't have an organization I'm representing, but I'm just here because I think it's important to sort of figure out how to move these issues in a constructive way and get some progress.
My name's Carlos.
I'm Susan McChrystal. I'm a minister with the Unitarian Universalist Association, the chaplain of hospice. It's important to stand on the side of love. I'm here because this is important and it's a historical moment in our history.
My name is Anthony. I'm here because growing up in Seattle, Washington, I saw nothing but police brutality. And the last year before I moved from Seattle, I saw 7 black men, unarmed black men, killed by cops. And I have black children. want to know what more I can do.
My name is Courtney. I'm a graduate of Ohio State, and I'm a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I'm just here to try to come up with some ideas as far as what we can do.
My name is Torrin Jacobs, and I'm educated for Oklahoma City Schools. I'm here today because it's my duty, and I'm ready to change the system from the ground up.
My name is Beta Asim. I'm a visual artist and recording artist. Here I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, North East Side. So anything that has to do with the communities in Columbus, Ohio, and the world, I mean, and the country, I want to be a part of it.
My name is Alice. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I organized with a group called Township of Silence to stop mass incarceration, police brutality, and the criminalization of generations. And I'm also here with the Ohio Student Association.
My name is Alia. I'm living in Columbus. I'm here to make some relationships and make some shit happen in Columbus. And I'm really excited to start doing more events around with the arts. I really think like what we need now in the movement is more visuals, more music, more video. So I'm interested in working with people to make that happen. I'm gonna stop talking.
My name is Gabriel Pizer. I'm a doctoral student in a program called Comparative Studies at OSU. In my fourth year, grew up in Philadelphia, worked with the Concerned Friends and Family of MIA, doing a lot of anti-police brutality work in Philly growing up, and wanted to plug in with what was happening here. It was pretty special.
Hello, everyone. My name is Malia Davis. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I currently still live in Cleveland. I work with the Ohio Student Association as the Northeast Ohio Regional Organizer, and I'm here because it is my duty to fight for our freedom.
Hi, my name is Lauren Todd. I'm currently in third year at The Ohio State University, majoring in English, trying to go to med school, but I'm just trying to help people be peaceful and loving, because I feel like it's a very important thing that people have forgotten how to do, which is to love each other. So I feel like it's my job to kind of be inspired by other people and learn from other people and their opinions and points of views. So go ahead here.
Hello, I'm Anthony Penn. I am the president and CEO for Columbus Area Integrated Health Services. We're located right here in Columbus, 1515 East Broad Street. I am here because our organization, excuse me, is one of the largest behavioral health care providers here in Columbus, Franklin County. We serve the largest number of African-American clients. We see a lot of our clients involved in the criminal justice system unjustifiably. So we're here to lend a voice there. We have been partnering with Attorney Byron Potts and offering a series of events called Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Every Black Child Lives Matter. And we'll have another one of those events on January 22nd at Columbus South High School. One of my major goals is to not allow the powers to be to divide the momentum that's happening. There's a lot of things going right now, and I've been in meetings where they've tried to funnel us away from one another, and I want to support any cause that I see going on so that we can continue to grow and make this thing happen.
My name is Amna Akbar. I'm a lawyer and law professor at Ohio State, and I'm also legal advisor for Ohio Student Association. I'm here because I think it's really important for different communities of color to come together in the struggle for racial and economic justice.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Robinson, and I am a graduate of the university. I am 63 years young, and I was here back in the day when we had student arrests and the National Guard at the outset of Lincoln and Royal Tower, which is where I stayed on campus. And I'm just so deeply impressed with seeing so many beautiful young people wanting to be involved. It reminds me of the time and what we need right here and right now for such a time as this. And so I am in my own business, RDR Strategic Communications, in contract with this gentleman here at Columbus Area Integrated Health Services. and we are doing that series of Hands Up, Don't Shoot. I have designed one of the baddest flyers in the nation. So I want to have all of your email addresses so that you will support our forum coming up, the third one, on January the 22nd. All right, thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Ada. I'm a photojournalist student currently working on a piece, a photo essay on Columbus community activism. So I hope everyone is okay with me maybe taking some photos and documenting this meeting. If anyone isn't, could I see a show of hands?
Oh, and I wanted to record this as well. Is that so
everyone's cool?
There's also a live stream.
Yeah,
There's like a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Any opportunity for constructive conversations, I'm really happy to be there.
Let's keep the intros quick, please.
Okay, I'm Sanj. Okay, I'm Sanj Jeanette, also go by Sanj, community organizer for OSA. I'm here so that we can collaboratively take next steps.
I'm Marshall, local creative entrepreneur. Just here to make my contribution.
Sandra Annamel, I'm a lawyer. This issue concerns me because I have brothers and sisters.
My name is Tree Valenci. I'm a professor here at Ohio State and in Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies and the Ohio coordinator for Black Lives Matter. I'm here because Black Lives Matter and they're killing us.
My name is Jason Wrigley. I pastor the Hilltop Community Worship Center on the west side. I am also the Ministerial Alliance president over the Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist pastors in this area. We led a prayer rally last week at the State House. We're here today to show support and to do whatever I can to help in the call for right.
My name is Kat Theodore. I'm a first-year student at Ohio State, and I'm here because I think being educated about the situation is the first step to making a difference.
My name is Ashley Theodore. I'm an OSU nursing student, and I'm here because I'm done complaining and I'm ready to be part of the solution.
Hi, my name is Joseph Butzel. I'm a fourth-year Korean major at Ohio State. I'm here because I want to learn from everybody, be more informed, and also figure out how, as an individual, I can also contribute to the cause.
My name is Jenny Jade. I am here in support and to collaborate and to learn, and thank you.
My name is Audra Phillips, and I'm a midwife, and I work with a couple different organizations, state and local, on infant mortality in Ohio. Black babies are dying more often than babies, especially in this state. Black babies die 2 times more, at least 2 to 3 times more often than white babies in Ohio, and we have the second worst infant mortality rate in the country. And so that's part of the reason why I'm here. I think that's what got me here, and made change.
My name is Clint Elmore, and I'm from Columbus. I'm a father and a grandfather, and I have marched and rallied and occupied and done a lot over the last few years around this issue. And children are still dying, so I'm here to hopefully hear some ideas that are outside of the box that we've been working on, because our old methods aren't really working and they're bringing the same results.
I'm Farouk Gilbert, no time. I'm just here to become a catalyst to reach the inner city youth, the ones that are actually being directly targeted right now. So,
my name is Derek Hodge. I'm just here to be an activist, to get involved and bring about a solution.
My name's Kate. I'd like to be part of the next steps and see what they are.
My name is Jenna Wajid. I'm here from Atlanta, Georgia.
I'm here because Black Lives Matter, of course, and this is a really, really sensitive time. I'm here to leave my mark and come from a long line of freedom fighters. My father was a victim of the prison industrial system for 15 years, so I definitely am here to put my hands in the pot for change. So it's definitely time.
Peace, everybody. My name is Akum Daya Wagiliki. I'm a revolutionary. I'm affiliated with too many organizations. But here today in this space, I represent the Department of African American Studies and the International People's Democratic Movement.
do that. Now that we've all introduced ourselves, Mr. Dial will give us norms in this meeting to make sure we are precise and punctual with time.
So at this point, we got 25 minutes. So let's make real good use of our time, keep things short, sweet, straight to the point, no venting, no storytelling. It's not the space. We've shared stories for years. So this space is only about action steps. If your story is about an action, please share it, whether it's the past or the present. But we would like to keep things tight and quick, but also critical. We're going to critically think everything we do as we go through this process. If everybody good with that, say check. If you disagree, say nah. All right, here we go.
Action steps.
The objective in this room is to try to come up with potential and solid ideas on how we can move and shape Columbus, something action oriented, whether it's a boycott, whether it is a sit-in, whether it's a die-in, whether it's building an organization, whether it is policing the police, whatever the case may be. But the goal from here is to take away something tangible that we can continue to move forward and build on for the next few years.
I was just going to offer my first suggestion.
We have an agenda.
Oh, okay.
That we have to follow. That the graduate students work tirelessly on. So I want to respect their time and their efforts.
All right.
Sorry, my brother.
That's okay. I'm good.
As revolutionaries, we don't have enough time. So, but remember, we'll continue this conversation as we struggle together. So it's not an issue. Work with anybody hot?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Can we have a timekeeper, please? Does anyone volunteer? You got the, oh, no. See, that's leadership. Right now, she already in it. Leadership. All right. So, like Kundayo said, we're here to have action steps and solution based. So please, let's focus on solutions. The graduate students have before us, those who have the question, who has a question? Raise your hand. Who has a question? Raise your hand. I know it's more out there.
So she had
Those are the sheets. The first question there we're going to skip because we already know our condition. We already know what has been done in the past and what we're going towards. So can we talk about the second question? What has been effective? What has been effective locally? What has been effective locally in our struggle against police brutality? Does anybody know?
Is there like a certain answer to this, or are we just suggesting?
We're in discussion.
Okay. I think that the rallies are very helpful. I mean, I understand that it's not like super, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, like direct action that you're really doing, I guess, but you're bringing a lot of awareness to a lot of people who aren't aware of the situation or who don't care to be involved in the situation. And I know that like as like a student at Ohio State, a lot of my fellow peers are like are trying to like be away from the issue that is really going on. And like, I'm trying to like, you don't even bring awareness and like inviting people to rallies, and people are coming and they're like, wow, like I didn't know that was like so like important to so many people. And I think, I don't know, I just think it's effective.
So rallies are effective.
Yeah,
Rachel.
personally.
So I have a clarifying question. So when you're saying effective in what specific goal? Because the goal that I hear her articulating is awareness. You're saying what's effective against police brutality. So what exactly are we talking about as the goal being?
That's where we're headed. It's just a question, what has been effective locally? So that's meaning that you're going towards strategy and goals. We're not there yet.
So as far as what has happened so far, for example, on Monday, right, there was a rally of about 400 plus people. That was effective. There has been multiple rallies in front of Broad Street, in front of the police department. These things we have had some success.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Cop Watch program that's happening when people call in, when they're seeing police stop people here, that's passed around among, I think it's a small group of individuals just at this point, but watching the police, so our own kind of renegade policing of policing the police.
Oh, yeah.
Having specific demands for the police department.
Can you explain what that is?
Specific demands, just so like if when we are out rallying or having a direct action, we have specific demands. So when the rally happened on Monday, they wanted more accountability from the police department. They wanted more. I should know the specific things.
She has them.
Yeah. So pretty much like you want specific things from the police department rather than just like being out there making noise.
So going to an action, having a demand, and it being met.
Yeah.
Sanj, you have something?
No, I was just saying I have it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the follow-up to her is the other part that I say would be effective is a direct demand to the leadership, whether it's the mayor or the chief of police.
Definitely the mayor.
Right, we have a win recently, the OSA have a win recently with their demands to rewind them in the next morning. He said that he was
That's
going
right.
to make some changes and the governor chimed in.
That's right.
So that's what I wanted to go to. Like there have been actions with asks and demands from like the wine and the prosecutor. We will go into that later. What has been ineffective today?
I think something, I guess, is there hasn't been enough consistency in how we're out. It's like the rallies are like really spread out. I think that we now need to start being consistent wherever we're going. So if we're going to the state house, we need to start going like every week or every other day. We need to like keep reminding them about what's going on, like keep holding them accountable regularly.
Momentum.
Yes.
Right. So we need, that's what's been ineffective. Anybody else?
Better communication.
Better communication.
It's been hit and
miss. We got Ami right here.
Yeah, my points were just the same. One, I think that the media coverage has been decent, but could be better. It's really cop focused.
Cop focused.
Yeah, right. If you watch like the coverage of the march on Monday, it was all oriented towards what the cops let us do on the local
Take a
news.
constitutional right.
Yeah, and then the other thing is most of the advertising I think for the marches happen on Facebook, and I wonder if there's a broader constituency we should be aiming for by publicizing through flyering and that sort of thing.
So better outreach. Right. I got one right there in your neck.
Mine was a clarifying question. Is there a reason we want to focus just on what was effective locally as opposed, or is there a further question?
In the agenda, I follow.
Okay, yeah. No, I trust the agenda. I just, yeah, that's cool.
And the reason why is because power is built locally. People think that national, it's not like the civil rights movement was in 4 states, right? It wasn't nationwide. So the point is that local power is more important, state power versus national power.
My brother, and we got you, my sister.
I was gonna say, I think with this whole issue, there's a lot of people that would be involved, they just knew how to, that aren't necessarily activists and that haven't done any organizing work or anything like that. I mean, I think that, like somebody, he said, more communication, but people that typically wouldn't be involved in something like this movement.
So are you saying like lack of organizations to reach out to people?
Right, reach out to people outside of it.
I dig it, my sister.
One of the things that I think will definitely work, and it's how it's worked, is an economic boycott.
You're gonna get, actually, that's.
I mean, really, that if Rosa Parks to cut down a bus system, close down a bus system, I think we can do the same thing here in Columbus, Ohio, easily. And there are certain places that all of you go to as young people, economic boycott.
Okay, so can we pin that for a second? Just put like a principle around the economic boycott.
Education. There hasn't been a lot of education around the history of movements,
right?
And how this is all interconnected.
Indeed.
I would say also, just to add, what has been effective and ineffective is that we've been effective of getting some youth involved, but we've been ineffective of getting the youth involved because they are the target more so than most of us in this space. So we need to focus on getting them involved in the process of liberating themselves.
One more.
And I would say another effective one would be getting our elders involved too, and making sure that they know what's going on and they know when the rallies are happening, where they're happening, and that sort of thing.
We're gonna move on. We will discuss after.
That's a question.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, has the president of the university come out forcefully on this issue?
No,
that's because he's a
No.
Okay.
The professor.
I already knew the answer. Thank you.
Right on. So.
So I just want to add something on die-ins. Necessarily ineffective and ineffective die-ins. I feel like it's effective in raising awareness, but if there's no rhetoric provided and there's no, you know what I mean? If people don't know why there's a bunch of people laying on the floor, I don't think that they're effective.
Can we move on?
Are we talking about other strategies that haven't happened locally?
We're talking. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
I don't want to jump.
No, go ahead.
Well, because I think that the idea that for example, the interstate stoppages, the interstate blockades that do to a whole city what police do to Black people every day, which is stop them and prevent them from doing what they want to do.
Right.
And so, and that's been something that's been effective in a number of different cities, being able to sort of like make the impact of that kind of imposition of state violence visible to many other people, what that feels like and what that looks like.
And that goes to the next one. It's like, what has been effective in other locales?
Okay, yeah, sorry.
And that's exactly what it is. It's like, so what have we seen around the nation has been effective? You said people stopping the freeways.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I think that like, and this like to follow up with what I was saying about what's been inconsistent. I think that like in Ferguson, the folks in Ferguson, which is the Lost Voices, that sat out every day until the indictment or
until there was the No True Bill came down.
Yeah. So I think that has been really good.
Yeah, there's occupation of spaces. People have time to occupy and get their win. As we in Columbus, we doing rally, ask and go back home. There's some people who are dire and say, yo, we're not moving until we get it. What they say, hell no, we ain't gonna go.
They stayed there.
They stayed there. Exactly. Are we want to talk about what the freedom side has done or anything?
I don't.
Okay. This is in my notes. Can those actions be implemented locally?
So there's an organization called the Black Youth Project 100. It's 100 activists. So one thing that they have done is they have done citizens court in front of the courts. And so they'll have a judge, they'll conduct what a court should look like. Those are some things that people, politics are not user friendly, right? They're hard to follow. So it's a good way to get lawyers, activists that know the system to give an example of what it should look like for the people. And that's what they have done in Chicago. Mock trial, yeah.
Okay, can those actions be implemented in Ohio?
Yes.
Can it be implemented in Ohio?
Yes.
Yes. All you need are bodies. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need people. Okay, so Di, you want to
Bless you.
take the next question here? Like, what is the role?
Yeah, and we have a lot of lawyers, or a few lawyers in here, and so y'all may be able to help with this question. But the next question is, what is the role of legislation, the court system, government officials, etc., and our plight? Obviously, Dr.
That's on
Sorry.
I know. No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Dr. Curtis, as he said prior to this sub conversation, he talked about that we can't depend on that, but we need to hold them accountable. So what is their role in this space? Legislation, courts, judges, the supposed leadership of our state and our city.
I think that we need to like not be afraid to engage with them more. We had a meeting with the county prosecutor, who's like the most powerful prosecutor in the state, and we just went in there, asked for. Well, I mean, it wasn't that easy, but we were able to, sit with him and really like have a dialogue. So I think, and he was completely like shook by our presence. They don't get many citizens that just walk in there and have meetings. So I think being engaged in the process, learning what, like having, part of education, maybe having teach-ins, how does the grand jury work? How does this process, I think is.
I know that, this is an old timey suggestion, but actually writing to your representatives, they have to read those letters, emails that come in, they have to read them. If you engage your representatives on what you're concerned about, whether it's this, obviously you want to talk about this, but whatever else it is that you want to talk about, they have to read them and they have to respond to them. So really, reaching out, having meetings with representatives, having meetings with the people who are representing you locally is really critical. I know there's arguments for engaging President Obama, but really your state representatives, your local representatives, the city council are all people that you really should be engaging more closely for anything you want, anything actually.
And you have to push.
You and then.
Okay, I would say I was pushing for a legislative change of the American justice system has proven that it cannot prosecute cops in the system that we currently have. So demanding that there be establishment of independent prosecutorial office specifically for police officer involved shootings, because police apparently are above the law and not included in the law. So they should be treated as such outside of the law with an independent review board. So I think that's something, a concrete demand that I've seen in other locales and places being asked for.
Can you explain what a independent review board is?
Well, I think there's two different kinds of ideas. One is like an independent prosecutor. So normally when the local police department is being investigated by the prosecutor, it's a local prosecutor's office. There are many problems with that, including that local prosecutor works with local cops every day that local prosecutors work with their local police department every day, and so asking them to investigate the cops that they work with every day is kind of nonsensical. So one idea of an independent prosecutor is that you ask a prosecutor out that's not from the local office to investigate the cops when the cops are involved in some sort of violence. And the other point about like a independent review board, there's also independent review boards like civilian complaint review boards and other types of bodies that are different forms of bodies that investigate the police, and there's a whole range of powers that they can have. Some of them are more weak and some of them have more power. So I think the basic idea is that we want to move both investigation and prosecution of cops outside of itself, kind of bring it outside, make community accountability mechanisms and people who aren't so implicated in the same system. But there's like a million ways to do that.
And I was just gonna say, just building off what you're talking about, among those specific demands and those local officials, like we really need to think about how to talk to these folks, because we have, Columbus has a really small city council. Columbus only has 7 members on the city council, whereas other places might have 20, 40 people. So it's very easy to get out and get in front of them. Columbus is gonna have a new mayor in a couple years. So it's a very fertile time to really organize around raising that as an issue in the community and going into that process. And even on the county level, county commissioners, you have your 3 county commissioners, and the county has a lot of power over these things too. So really, I think in terms of local officials, we just have to know exactly what these structures are and what powers they have to actually make those changes, because you have a lot of discretion there. So I would say that in this state right now, that's probably where you get a lot more of your actions on that city and council level. I mean, rather than even state level.
Back here.
I wanted to add, in terms of what role they should play, or what role they do play, is that officials' job is basically to do as little as possible to get people to go home. And so when we think about how our demands work, needing them to be, I mean, if we want to think about it like we're negotiating, aiming real high, abolishing prisons, and then changing our tactic in terms of what we're asking, because their goal is to diffuse the situation as quickly as possible. And the easiest way they can do that is to grant limited demands.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, everything that's been said is great. And I'm all for, going to legislation, talking and doing things like that. But one of the things that, no one has mentioned yet that we really need to consider, is our vote. There's one of the things I've learned, we can march, we can rally, do all those things is all great. But the 2 things that's going to motivate change the most, a sister touched on it, is one thing is that's when you're dealing with people's money and their positions.
That's right.
And she mentioned about the boycott. I know we're going to come back to that, but one of the things that as we talk about marching through the city, we need to do something in the city to rally people to the point where we begin to march to the polls. Because there's only so much change that will take place by us talking to people. But we can get some real change when we start voting people out of office and things like that. So that's one of the things that we really need to begin.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take these last 2 just to add to that. What's even more powerful is that we position our people in our community to run, support them, and be our leaders, because we still vote on people that don't come from our community. So if it's about voting, it's about getting our people to vote for the people we grown.
And also, to piggyback on what you said, my brother, is that the vote has to be organized. It can't just be one man, one vote. And the strategy is to know that what we were saying about the prosecutor we met with, we know his term is coming up. He has to be reelected. He's an elected official. With my brother, we were talking about Mayor Coleman. He's out. It's like we have to figure out a strategy to no longer rely on them for our struggle, and then put people who represent us into power. And that comes through organization and discussions like this. We have 2 more? Yeah.
I was just gonna follow up on the comment about City Hall. I think a strategy around occupying City Hall on a consistent, frequent basis. I think it's New York City, not New York, North Carolina.
Yes.
Every Monday,
More
I believe
Mondays.
is they go in and they just occupy until they get a change. I think that's top-down strategy that we need to be considering.
Columbus is at large, so you can't go to your ward and complain to your councilman. You have to go to the council meeting and get it put all aboard. So that's comment on this.
Yeah, you have to push leadership in this town, political leadership in this town. And I speak from experience because I did the Columbus Black Expo and Ohio Black Expo in Columbus town, okay? And took it statewide. And I'm telling you that Black leadership period, here in Columbus is dead weight. You have to push them. You vote for them. Our tax dollars pay for them. You have to let that be known. And the movement is really in your hands. Because as I announced, I'm 63 young and still look good. But I know at the same time, it is in your hands. So you gotta push.
Oh my goodness. That's how we get it in, Hannah.
I know.
Gotta break the rules.
I do have a quick question for the comment. I don't know if we have or haven't done this. Is there a way to target, one thing is we need to have laser precision and maybe target specific politicians, prosecutors or judges, and then start running, there's media people in here, run our own media and start getting that pushed out on those particular judges are doing certain rulings or prosecutors and are prosecuting, and really start targeting specific people and not just be so broad and talk about prosecution, because then the heat is on a particular person and they see how we move certain heat on that person to create a change. You see what I mean? I don't know if we have or haven't, but, and then the other thing is a lot of times we're voting, but it's always coming up like, do we have a Black agenda? And I think that's what we really need to have when we organize. And I don't know if we're doing that here literally, is this what we're doing, but and of course the agenda has to be on many fronts. It can't just be singular, but it has to be on a multitude of fronts. And some organizations might pick up on 1 or 2 of them and so forth, depending on how they're structured. But I'm just saying is, are we ever going to develop a Black agenda that we're actually going to say, this is what we're setting forth, this is the demands, and then we all get behind that, even if we have some disagreements, just to get some things, start to get things pushed.
And then you don't support any of the candidates that don't follow that agenda.
So the conclusion in that is that we're going right in order. So that what we got here is that he's saying that what people like to do, what would like to be done is having a Black agenda, to have a target campaign, someone who would target, and boycotts,
and
things.
Right. And that's the next piece, right?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm sorry, I do want to add this too. Solution is to embed ourselves with the police as much as possible. So somehow organizing meetings with police, let them see the people all the time. We always stare in their face constantly. So they are ingrained in the community. They have to be, because we're always in their face. They won't come to us. We got to go with them. And so besides this protest, dinners, lunches, whatever, just talks, get in the police's face as much as possible. And on the top of the Citizen Review Board, I'm really interested in getting that started. And so after this meeting today, if anyone's interested in getting that jump started, I want people who have information, who are passionate about it, to get it started, because we need to have those 23 people ready to go and start putting the pressure on them.
So that can be 2. We can put what needs to be done. You want a Citizen Review Board.
Yes.
And let's recap for a second. Develop a Black agenda, maybe. Boycott, target, organized meetings.
Presidents and council meetings.
Occupy Mondays.
Occupy. Was that again?
Occupy Mondays.
Occupy Mondays. Okay. So with that, what is the outcome that we are asking for? What are we hoping?
Well, yeah. Okay. So right. So we live in a capitalist society, so everything is about the dollar. One thing that came up in the previous meeting was, what is the best way to really target a certain politician? Where do they get their money from that funds them
to run, right? And so start targeting their money sources. It's all public. Find businesses that I don't know about Columbus because I've only been here for a year, but when we think about boycotting, right, it's all about the dollars. And as you talked about Rosa Parks, that was, the reunion was, December 4th. What are ways that we can really tap into the pockets to really start making some changes, whether that's a boycott. We also may need we need to get dollars, so fundraising, so on and so forth, trial money to get people out of bail when stuff get real.
Like you said, so the boycotting Black Friday, boycotting the shopping season, so to spend that money on material crap, put that in a pool, and then use that money for a later issues. Like you said, we can go Christmas shopping, spend that money for bail, spend that money to buy clothes, buy food for the community. So that'll be our Christmas gift to the people. And another part is social cooperative. So we need to have more cooperative businesses, and this goes part of education. So we need to go into Black communities, oppressed communities, and teach them how to start cooperatives, worker-owned businesses that also funnel the money back into the communities. Then we can put the money to the politicians.
Because we have a lot of businesses that don't generate capital. We need to combine all the health care, the hair care, the lotions, right? And just start hiring people, right? We have no business that hire people.
The idea of boycotting things, so just like talking about transportation, so the idea of boycotting things that then would require alternative systems to be built in place of that would organically create networks of people that were working to help each other. Doing something like transportation and providing alternatives for transportation for people to get places would do that. So that would be an example of one, but other ways that we could boycott CODA or various other things that people are dependent upon that we would then have to, again, create an alternative institution for that. I think would be would hit multiple goals.
So you're suggesting that if there's a boycott, you have to create alternates for that boycott that even exists, correct? Go ahead.
And while we're doing these action steps, could there also be a commitment to communicate and coordinate with all the other groups that are out there so that we're not divided? That's what happens with Black people all the time, is that you're divided and then become weaker, but we can bring everybody to the table, create a summit that this is the agenda, this is what we're trying to do. Some people won't buy in, but at least the communication is out there.
Yeah.
And I think this room here, has enough energy and passion to pull that communication together.
We shouldn't rely on that too much, because I've found that organizations, they seem to be most hesitant to work with other organizations because they might not get the credit. You know what I mean? So it's got to be more organic. It's got to be the people, and because it's too important to be left to the organization. Okay. To be honest with you.
All right, we got 5 minutes. We got the 5-minute call, so we need to.
Remember, we will discuss later about this.
Yeah, this is not the last.
We're not going anywhere. I have your emails. So with this conclusion, we already talked about what outcomes we were looking for. We want what with this outcome? Are we hoping for with these occupations and boycotts and raising funds? What is the outcome that we want from this?
Change the system.
Change the system.
What was that? Total change?
Policy.
Balance the scale. Policy.
Dismantle white supremacy in institutions. Like institutional white supremacy. Well,
People getting kidnapped.
sounds general.
Less people get killed. That's just cutting off the head.
Better education for Black students.
Better education for Black students. Can we move on? We respect the time. What are the necessary steps to reaching these outcomes?
Like I said, our brother said over here, we need solidarity. We need to have a Justice League against oppression. So all these organizations put the egos aside and really focus on working together. And even have an organization specifically geared towards connecting other organizations together. So we start from city, then we branch out like a spider web from other city to city. And
Spider web. We're not in the Justice League.
I just want to say that mental health is involved in everything that we do. And we really need to work with our oldest mental health organization in Franklin County, Columbus area. So I just wanted to put that out there. We want to engage Columbus Area Integrated Health Services.
I got a quick question. Real quick. I thought about that before because I know there's a lot of undiagnosed mental disease or disorders within the Black community, that when these police encounter them, they immediately just think they're violent people or just, insubordinate, no respect for authority or something like that, not recognizing some type of disease. I was wondering if we could construct, or even that as part of the demand, that they have a training of psychology, especially dealing with Blacks, to identify that, because sometimes, I just like, they crazy. I know when they just crazy. They ain't gonna do nothing. They don't hurt nobody.
As a legalized Ku Klux Klan, and they are not. They are not.
I just want to make a really quick point. I also think it's really important for us to have our concept of justice to be both intersectional and broad. So we need to think about economic, racial, and gender justice, I think, in order to make sure that we're keeping.
Because remember, the struggle is for people, humanity. It's not about the offshoots of capitalism. One of the, real quick, you touched on coalition building, really. We all know that in our organizations, there's pride. Everybody wants to, there's narcissism. Okay, we know this, right? So how do we move beyond that? Now, unity is, maybe a common goal that we all need to have and share. What is a good tactic if anybody in this room is good with coalition building?
Y'all feel most young people folks are going to support if it gets pushed from you all. Okay. You can break down that barrier if it gets pushed here.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Is there a structure that we should have for coalition building for this city?
You want it?
But this is organic. We're talking about, do we need a structure? Yeah. Because we talked about the lapse in communication, right? And so we have more structure around the coalition, the solidarity.
And you need
what does that
mental
look like?
health. You need mental health involved.
Yeah.
I think that there does need to be a structure, because if not, then it's reactionary. And when it's reactionary, you don't have time to think about mental health and all the things that are like not sexy and not exciting and not,
well, mental health is not sexy at all.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
That's why it's hard to
Something
involve.
that needs to be taken care of and brought to the table like on a consistent basis, so that people will have enough emotional reserves to actually come to the next meeting or the next whatever. And so I don't know what that structure looks like, but yes, I think there needs to be one, because
Didn't this come together by graduate students here?
Yeah.
This event came together by the graduate students?
And we have a lot of organizations in this room.
I see something missing from your board.
We are getting ready to wrap up, my brother. You got that?
Oh, yeah.
We got two more.
You wanted to say something?
I don't see economic empowerment up there.
Yeah. It's up there.
Yes,
It's
up there. I see economic boycott. That's the same thing.
It's a part of it.
We talked about it.
I can add it.
So just an idea, I'm sorry.
We got you, my man back there, and Marshall. We're gonna kill it.
So just an idea, I guess we can divide it up into 5 pillars. You have your business wing, your health wing, arts, education, and politics is all fall under there too. And so once you divide it there, you can get the organizations that have their interest, get them together. Like I said, you're gonna have an organization specifically, their goal is to organize other organizations together to focus on the issues. So after you have your 5 pillars, you go and say, okay, getting all the health NGOs together, and then we're gonna focus and do this. These are our goals that we're gonna tackle. So dividing it up, having specific goals, and getting those specific interests to tackle those goals. And also putting when you have rallies and stuff, everybody comes together. 5,000, 10,000 people, environmental, trans, whatever, doesn't matter who you are, get them together.
The People's Party.
Let me ask you a question.
We have M, Marshall, and then the order, the stack.
I guess I wanted to, the thought that I had was that the kind of, just went out of my head. Oh, that's the worst. Okay, let someone else go, and I'm going to try and remember what I was trying to say.
Just 2 things, and this is on a small scale, but an effective visual or propaganda campaign.
That's right.
We're surrounded by propaganda. Propaganda is a part of the problem, and then something free is like small study groups, which were also a part of past movements. And I think that's very critical, because a lot of people are mad and upset, but kind of don't know how all of this is intergenerational. So on that scale, then we can be educated moving forward.
Can I share what I remember? Oh no, let's just.
I forgot what I mean.
Isn't that the worst? That's the worst. But I remember. Can I start? I wanted to.
Wait, we got 2 remembers.
We're good under pressure. We remember, okay. No,
Go. Let's.
okay.
Would you support a Columbus Black Convention?
Yes.
Can we do that? Yes, we can.
Or even
I think that we
Ohio.
should just like, even like, not even something maybe so fancy, but like something. No, I'm not saying, I'm just saying like convention sounds fancy, sounds like it's super structure. I'm saying like, we went to Mississippi this summer and we listened to Mama D, an organizer from New Orleans who's still organizing today, stopping police and stopping young police from taking our sons to jail, whatever. Sorry. She said that when they started, like back in the 60s, what they did, they called everybody and they just spent 48 hours together and just got it done. And I feel like we should call for something like that soon.
Call to action basis.
Yeah, where like we just go, I mean, like we're gonna have the canvas, really get into the communities, but that way we can get everyone in the same space and just focus for 2 days, kind of.
And
last one.
So, and on that tip, I think that from the late 90s and early 2000s, the anti-globalization movement made a point of talking about a diversity of tactics, which means that you don't make, in order to produce the biggest umbrella possible, you have as few, a few guidelines that people can vibe with, but you don't make it, very extensive platform that you have to get everyone to agree with. And specifically, they said multiple kinds of protest tactics, direct action, from very militant to less militant. And I think that making space for all of that is going to be important for building those kind of coalitions.
Everyone give yourself a hand. This is the first time we started meeting, how it normally goes. It was normally like 7 hours long, right? Because everyone has a lot of ideas. So, to conclude, 1 second, we have came up with disruptive campaigns, actions, boycotts. Also, there are policy campaigns where you actually go to power. And there's a vision, long-term vision within the strategy. So Hannah is telling us that we must vacate the premises.
Not vacate the premises, just move to the larger room so we can bring all of the brilliant ideas from the smaller room to a larger scale. It would be great.
Remember,
Bring your chairs. If you want to sit, bring a chair. If you want to stand, don't bring a chair.
1 second. I have your email. If I email you and you tell me I have to email you back, I'm gonna be upset. You will get email, but I will email everybody on this list. Please read that piece.
Also, with these notes, we're gonna type them up and we're gonna send them out to everybody.
Okay, we
Want to meet next week and talk about the?
I'm heading out of town on Wednesday.
If a representative from this group wants to go into the larger group and came up with, that would be great.
So they started it again. So yeah, so if they started.
Yeah.
We have done all of
Thank you.
networking, what's going on, and have these kind of community conversations. What are some next steps? A team of network assistants. Again, this communication, signing up out there for emails and then getting the follow-ups from here. That's vital to keeping the movement going. Locating geographic areas in the Black community because we are dispersed here in Columbus. But that doesn't mean we are not community. So recognizing that, but saying this is a way that we can all come together. This is a place, whether it's here, the Lincoln Theater, the neighborhood house, where can we come together? And then engaging the city government. City government is here and they are here to work with us. You gotta reach out. You do have to work with folks. You can't say, oh, I don't want anything to say with you. When you cut off communication, then nothing happens. So working with the community. Outcomes, what do we want? Looking at a civilian review board, law enforcement and public change, a grand jury process, and Black community providing narrative. People being able to tell their story. What happened, what impact does it happen, and what happens next?
So let's go to narrative. My group talked about use of social media, change the narrative, use of hashtags. Most of us find out about versions through social media, Twitter, Vine, Instagram. So the use of that, we talked about affecting schools and what policies are in schools, talked about the school to prison pipeline, how ever since preschool, Black and brown students are treated more harshly than their white classmates. We talked about curriculum. So I know in North Carolina, they're trying to say that slavery was, slaveholders weren't racist and slavery was a good system. So you have to change school policy, start with local school boards, local politics, legislation. We talked about money boycotts. Another thing I brought up was fundraising. With civil disobedience, people are arrested, getting bail money together, other fundraising aspects of what to do with the money we're not using in these stores and stuff. Coalition building. We talked about how do we build coalitions within different communities, organizations, and have differences in opinions. That was about it. And I guess the next.
So I believe this is ours. I'm going to kind of summarize. So I'm just going to kind of summarize. My group is very passionate about the issue. We believe that there are a lot of problems, and I don't know if we even got through all the questions, but basically we want something to start today, and we want it to be radical. One thing we talked about was reaching out to people who, it was mentioned that we're very like-minded. Reaching out to people who are not as like-minded as we are is a big thing because we can't do it by ourselves. This is a very systematic problem and we have to engage more people than are already involved. One of the things we think we do very well is communicating and people knowing what's going on out there. And my group, please feel free to speak up too, help me here. Which one is ours? Brown one? Okay. What should we do involve youth and the people who are affected? There was a great, someone came over and talked to us about some events that they have going on about ways to involve the youth with, basketball games and things that, they are interested in. They don't want to sit in a room full, and talk. We have to find ways to engage them that keep them involved. February, Black Justice Month, really taking hold of this upcoming Black History Month, really being involved more than ever, really showing a presence and letting people know that we are not going to let up on this issue. We're not going to let it fizzle. We want to see some real change here. And again, with the problem, systematic racial discrimination, and it's larger than police killings. Thank you.
Our group didn't tackle a lot of the questions, but we thought these were big questions. And, people were very passionate about the questions, so we did as best we could. But one of the things that was discussed concerning the question of what has been done in recent and not so recent past is we talked about an action that took place on November 1st, where people marched from Livingston to the police headquarters to deliver 10 demands. That was followed up again when students and community activists joined forces last week, earlier this week, to deliver those same demands to the headquarters. But we also talked about the most effective way to make sure that those demands are taken seriously is that we have to keep going to the headquarters. We can't do it in November and then do it again in January. We have to like figure out how we can organize ourselves so that every week those demands are going downtown. The other thing, we talked about what has been effective, what has been effective locally, and in that, let me see, what do we have here? I'm sorry. We talked about years ago, there was an attempt to have cop watch. There was an attempt to have community oversight. And those things never really happened. And I think people gave up, and we need to put that back on, cop watch and demanding community oversight of the police needs to be on the table again, and we need to be vigilant about it. Suits need to be filed against the Columbus Police Department. And we talked about a group that we thought was pretty effective when it was around, and that was POOR. James Moss, who was the leader of POOR, was a good friend. And it means that we have to, know who our police officers are, particularly our Black police officers, and see if we can find allies among them. POOR was a group of Black police officers who were allies with the community. They addressed police brutality on a regular basis. They addressed racial profiling on a regular basis, and we need to do that again. We might need to, reach out to our officers, Black officers on the force, to see where their heads and hearts are. We talked about needing to address police brutality as a part of a system. It is not simply enough to do what I just said, to identify policemen who can be friends, or to demand that police have certain kinds of training, address their implied biases and what have you. But these policemen are operating within certain policies, and we need to attack those structures that create these policies. As Dr. Austin said, they're not doing anything wrong. They're doing exactly what they are expected to do by the people who supervise it, who work for them. So we need to deal with those structures. We also talked about, and this is what I think this gathering today is about the various groups that are working on this need to be in touch with one another. I said in our group discussion that before we leave here today, anyone who's representing a group needs to come and, introduce themselves and talk about their group. And we need to have, collaborative, exchanges in projects. So I hope that will happen before we leave here today. We need regular meetings. That was another thing that came up. And someone talked about dealing with people who are not of our mindset. We are here, we are of like mind. But one of our members, Dr. Myers, talked about conscience raising. And we have to be engaged in that we have to go beyond the people in this room and deal with people who might not be paying attention as much as they should. And sometimes people are struggling, trying to make ends meet. That's why they're not paying attention. But we still have to try to get that attention. So there has to be conscious raising efforts on our part. We believe there has to be a global understanding of white supremacy. There was a suggestion that we need to make our legislators accountable. We need to be writing to them. We need to be in their face, So I think that was it for us. Thank you.
Back in the day, we used to call them teach-ins.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about.
Conscious raising, teaching. Yes.
Give them the vocabulary now.
The next group, the group that's in green.
Peace, everybody. All right, so we are the green section to the left. A few things that we talked about. One of the things we talked about was coalition building. One of the issues that we talked about that was ineffective was communication. Though it has been better, as Dr. Newsom said, there are a lot of organizations out here. And what does solidarity and coalition really look like? How do you truly be an ally? So those are some of the things we talked about, but specifically for the coalition building, how can we continue to build this power? And we talked about the coalition building has been organic. We're here organically, right? But if there's some structure around our organizations, how can we continue to move forward? Since we're talking about power to the people, we need the people to be involved to have this power. One of the things we talked about was boycotting. We live in a capitalist society, so how do we dig into the pockets? If we also talk about targeting people, politicians that are not living up to the standards of what we got them into positions to be in the first place. So to do that, we talked about how to boycott, maybe target a certain politician. What are they getting their funding from? How are they getting funded to run their campaign? Well, we need to start boycotting their funding sources. We talked about an independent review board, which is also in progress. We talked about developing a Black agenda, specifically for politics. A lot of times, it's the lesser of two evils we have to vote for. But we need to start building the leaders in our community to get them to be politicians to vote, so we can vote for them. Start grooming our own people to take, so we can put them into actual positions of power. We talked about some things we've seen across the nation with stopping traffic, mock trials. We've seen that in Atlanta, Detroit, Chicago. We've seen that in multiple spaces. Some things that were effective, we talked about rallies, more direct action. Though they're good for awareness, we need to continue to move forward. But a lot of things we really talked about was the political piece, how we can put pressure, continue to have pressure. We had a rally on Monday. We should have had another one today. We needed to have another one in 4 days and another one in 3 days. We got to continue to put the pressure on. Don't let the holidays fool you.
And also being more bold in our actions. Oftentimes we get caught up in the tradition. Boycotts, what's it look like? We have to be more bold because they are scientific on what they're doing to our bodies and our people. We have to be just as bold as them. And as they said as well, study groups, as Marshall was suggesting, to understand the conditions of us, to understand what we're up against. As Jawanza always tells me, they have been studying for 30, 40 years. The capitalist system knows what they're doing. It works. We have to be just as bold and as bad as them. As we do all these tactics, all these things for solution-based. And as Dial said, find out who's in power, take them out of power, and build independent political institutions for power. Indeed. Indeed.
Has the president of the university come out and condemned this?
No.
Okay, what we're saying is that pressure you're talking about needs to be put on Dr. Drake and Dr. J, and they need to get a formal declaration from all of the staff at the university condemning those actions. And if Obama, if he doesn't come out, we need to go to the White House and call him a coward.
We've already been to the White House. Let's get it correct here. We have already sat at the White House. There have been Dream Defenders, Ohio Student Association, BYP, MAU. They're looking at us as a race issue, okay? Obama does not care. He's concerned about, we have to think about local things and also build globally, because it is not a question of those puppets who are puppets of the economic system. We're not trying to move them. We're trying to take them out, okay? So let's be clear about our objective. As we build coalition, our objective has to be very clear and scientific if we're going to act, because they are serious and they're killing us one by one with impunity, okay? It's a serious, we're at war. Juwanza always says we are at war with ideas. It is serious. We were in a conversation with the prosecutor 2 days ago. I've seen racism on the bottom level with police officers, with Klansmen, with NRA. I've never in my life seen a racist pig in a position of power. It was different because he literally said, F you, I don't care, show me a case. We have more intel on social issues than he does. He didn't even know or wasn't even concerned about Tamir Rice or John Crawford or Mike Brown. He literally said to us, I'm not familiar with that case. This is a man in power who gets elected. What we took away from that was that we're going to take him out by any means.
Who was that?
Ron O'Brien.
Who ran unopposed last time. That will run something against him and bring the movement down to his office. Because he's not afraid of anything.
So as we build, as we target these people, let's study our local politics. Let's also study global politics as we continue this struggle. Because it's a continuous struggle for liberation for the people. Let's not get it confused and get it twisted. It's not pretty. It's not a race issue. All right, it's a class inside of a caste system. That's all it is. All power to the people.
There was one more group.
Okay. Is there one more group that needed to go, or no?
Wrap it up.
I don't think so. And then
all right, so I'm going to briefly describe what my group talks about, but a lot of it has been said already. And I also want to just say before, because I know we'll start wrapping up soon, that now that we have everyone's email address, the organization that they're part of, and names, of course, we will be reaching out. What we're going to do is try and consolidate all of these ideas, and we'll be sending it out on the listserv, and look out for a date in January. It will be a Saturday again in January where we'll come together and then figure out, groups, the action groups, action steps, and things like that. So look out for that. We will have a few organizations that want to come up and speak just about what they're doing and other things that you can get involved in within the next few weeks. But my group discussed some of the important next steps that we feel we need to do. And so one thing was call for a community oversight committee. And that's not, that idea isn't for the police necessarily, but kind of something that we've done today. I think
coalition building is a good idea. And so we have all these community groups, we have all these individuals, we have all these students. And you know, we all really do need to come together, meet, you know, monthly, weekly, whatever it is, so that we're letting people know that we're serious about this and this isn't something that's going away. We talked about economic boycotting. We talked about economic restructuring, because the system does need to be restructured even. We talked about bringing the police into conversations, because that is important too. I've had a couple people ask me if we even communicated with the police, and I'll say that we didn't think to do so, but that was suggested, and I think that's a very important idea. And then again, being visible, marching, but also having conversations, and not conversations just in this room, but bring people into the conversation. You know, because obviously we're here because we know something's wrong, we know something needs to be done about it, but not everyone does. I mean, I don't know how they could not know, but people don't know. So that's something that we feel needs to be done. We talked about the restructuring of the government itself. We talked about a state review board, and that has to do with the police officers. You know, we need someone checking on them. And again, a couple of these things have been said already, but we hope to, one thing that was suggested and would be a good idea is to take this, what we're doing here, and make it a national thing. And so I know we have community groups that have chapters in other places, and so if we could get those chapters to, you know, start reaching out to the community and make their own coalition there, I think that could be very powerful. And we talked about moving student groups in general into a network, and so we should be reaching out to, we reached out to different, you know, OSU universities, satellite universities, but we can also be working on connecting just a bunch of different student organizations. So that's really the gist of what we talked about in our group. And like I said, look out on the list, look out for the listserv. We'll be communicating that way. And you know, thank you all for coming in. We do have some community groups that want us to come up and speak a little bit about what they're doing.
Hello, everybody. I'm Timothy Singratsumboon.
I'm Rashida Davidson.
Ashley Braxton.
And we are some of the organizers involved with the hashtag CBUS to Ferguson movement, because we're not a group, we're not an organization, we are a movement of volunteers within the community. And you may have heard about the march the day after the Darren Wilson verdict. And about 350 to 400 of us marched from Franklin Park to the Office of Internal Affairs for the Columbus, Ohio Division of Police, and we shut down Long Street, and we delivered a list of demands that Rashida will read to you here shortly. And then this past Monday, we got about 700 people. About 300 of us started from the Oval, Ohio State. We marched to Goodell Park. We met up with about 400 more activists. And then all of us marched down in the middle of High Street to the headquarters of Columbus Police. And we're letting them know that we have a list of demands, both national and local, that we want to see within this community.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read the demands real quick. I actually handed them out. It should be circulating through the rows right now. So the demands that we had, aside from the official statements of condemnation of the decision not to indict Darren Wilson and Daniel Penatelio, we also have as demands an independent and diverse civilian review board, so it needs to be representative of the Columbus population. We demanded required shooter bias trainings. So if officers are tested and it's shown that they're more likely to see harmless objects with Black youth as being weapons, they do not need to be a part of the police force. Demilitarization of the Columbus Police Department, and also community-based police management. So this is pretty much to say that officers should only be patrolling areas that they actually live in. So they need to be familiar with the community.
Yeah, so we have a few plans coming up after the march Monday. It was the second march and numbering in the hundreds. So we feel at this point that CPD is ready to take us seriously. And they've actually reached out to me and Rashida and a few other organizers for meetings. But we've seen the civil rights movement, and we know that there was the Big Six, and it was an elite group of all men who got to meet alone with President Kennedy and President Johnson. We don't want that. We want a meeting out in the open where we have a few negotiators on a stage, either at the King Lincoln Theater or at the Hale Center at Ohio State, wherever the community has access to. And then community members will be able to fill the seats and not just watch and listen, but also participate and critique either the police or us if we're not fighting well enough for the community on stage. So we definitely want full transparency. We don't want no secret meetings. We don't want to be wined and dined and by powerful people. We want the whole community watching, because this isn't about policies given to us by the police or the politicians, because we want legislators and city council at this meeting too. This isn't about them giving us anything. This is about restructuring the dynamic of power in our city. And we want the whole community out there. So keep that in mind. And we have a few other interesting creative ideas coming up.
Just for anyone whose schedule may not permit them to attend any of these events, which we will do our best to keep everyone posted on, there are definitely things that everyone can do in their everyday life, and I'm sure that people address this in our breakout groups, but really one thing that, well, I personally thought of was just attacking on all fronts simultaneously, because we have a wealth of resources in this room right now, and we can start this today, we can start this when we go back to work, back to school, back to wherever it is that we are. And we can work with whoever we have connections with to bring this to people's attention and to try to figure out a solution and basically just bring everyone together, because as someone said earlier, we do need to put our differences aside, because this is a problem that involves everyone. It permeates absolutely every aspect of life in America and probably really across the world. So yeah, just do your part.
And if you would like to stay updated, there's a hashtag at the bottom. It is hashtag CBUS2 Ferguson. You can also send an email to that exact same thing, cbus2ferguson@gmail.com, and we can keep you updated with everything.
Without the hashtag.
Yeah, no hashtag in the email.
Yeah, do you know? And you can get involved whether you're involved with a group or not. We understand that not everybody here has a group affiliation and group resources, but you can definitely get involved.
Yeah, because we don't want people to feel like excluded from the movement because they aren't able to attend group meetings or don't have like a specific position within an organization. And yeah, if you have any ideas for anything, I know we talked about getting the youth involved in leadership positions. If you're an artist and you would like to organize some sort of activism around art, if you would like to be a part of the social media team, medic, attorney, anything, any way you would like to get involved, please, hit us up. We're not all knowing, all powerful, anything like that. We really want this to be community based.
Thank you. We're not organization based. We're just at that email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't put the hashtag in the Gmail unless you search on Twitter. So thank you.
I appreciate being here, and congratulations to the people who organized this. If in any of the movements I belong to, we had this many people in the room with this type of spirit, we control the city right now, and it'd be a far more democratic and a less racist place. I'm making a pitch. I edit the Free Press. I've been involved in some things here historically. 1992, maybe some of you know, we actually fought hand-to-hand combat to get a chance to talk to George Bush after the beating of Rodney King. I've never seen so many police cars in the city history. We didn't make it, but we got close in that case. And also they had beat Aletha Wall, right? They beat the wrestler at Ohio State for stepping into the street and knocked his teeth out. I was with Anti-Racist Action and Cop Watch. Good groups, both of them. Part of the problem is that they didn't really move enough off campus, but they did a tremendous job. They were beaten, they were harassed for doing nothing but exercising their First Amendment right and videoing the police of Columbus, who would not tolerate that. So I think I'm with the Free Press right now. Any of you who want to write, we're posting every day at freepress.org. I wrote the article there on the FBI stats showing that we're number 2. We've got a police force that is out of control, that's withholding records the NAACP met for 2 years with them. They refused to give over the data on the shootings. I think at Target, I was in those meetings, they refused to give it over. They say if we don't keep it as a record, we don't have to give it over. I say we show up at Internal Affairs, which is right down the street soon, and ask them. We have a right under 149.43 ORC to get the records to show up during business hours. If this many people showed up, we would get those records and you would find that people there have been shot repeatedly, and the witnesses are saying they weren't armed. This city is involved in one of the biggest cover-ups for a major city in its police shooting. And we need to get those records, and we need to have an actual audit. There's no accountability whatsoever by the police here, and they know it. And the people in this room, if half of us showed up on one day, I'm willing to do it. I'm an attorney. They beat me enough already. I spent the 1990s being beat by them repeatedly. It's not a problem. I'm willing to go down there. I'm willing to sue them. I'm willing to write about them. And I would be proud to be part of your movement. I'm happy as hell that, it's not this small group of people waiting to go to get beat again. I'm looking out, and you are the people that are going to change the very face of this city. And I congratulate you.
Good job,
Hello, my name is Torrin Jacobs, and all power to the people. Special thanks to the graduate students and professors who organized this. Real quick, I want to take your time. We talked a lot about starting a citizen review board, and I'm really interested in getting that started. So what I'm looking for is a group of dedicated people looking into getting that started. A lot of logistics, a lot of information we got to comb through to decide how we want to organize this panel to make it most effective, and how we're going to politic with the police and the legislators to get this thing rolling. So if you want to get that started, please talk to me after the meeting so we can get your name and contact and start setting up some meetings so we can actually have a concrete plan of how we want to establish this review board, and we can bring it to the other organizations and get rolling. Thank you.
Hi, I'll be brief. I'm Haley Swenson. I am a grad student at OSU. I organize with the International Socialist Organization. We're both on campus and off. We're a small group, so we're doing what we can to throw our support behind all these actions. But one way we're also trying to help out is our organization has developed a relationship with CeCe McDonald, who's a trans Black woman who defended herself and her friends against a hate crime in Milwaukee a couple years ago, and she ended up taking a 41-month plea bargain for self-defense. And so she's been speaking around the country and highlighting everything that's wrong with the criminal injustice system. We're going to bring her here to Columbus to speak January 29th at OSU at the law school, 7 p.m. If you would like more information about that, come talk to me. I'll get your email if you want to help organize that. She needs help with legal fees, so we're also trying to raise quite a bit of money to pay her for coming here to speak. So if you'd like to learn more about that and help out, thank you very much. Thanks, organizers.
All right, so I think we're wrapping up here now. I just want to thank you all for coming out. And one thing that I do want to ask is that you guys don't let this movement die down. Please make sure that you come out for the next one. And if you can't make it, send 2 people in your place or something. We really don't want this. As Leah says, I don't think she's in the room right now, but
She's right here.
Oh, well, as Leah says over there, we're in a moment right now. And it's up to us to keep that moment in this movement alive. And so make sure that you come out again, please. And we just want to remind or let all of you know that there is going to be a die-in on the Oval. It's at 5. It starts at 5. The die-in will be at 5:30. The Ohio State, yes, today. The Ohio State Oval. And then we have one more announcement. And then that's it. So thank you all for coming out again.
Come on, Amos.
For those who are concerned about mass incarceration of our people, the OOC with the Ohio Organized Collaborative is having a lobby day, January 22nd. If you want any information, please contact me or come see me later. That's January 22nd. And I think we'll be at the, what's that church on Broad and High, that church on the corner is the State House. All right, just hit me up.
Something else too, all these organizations that have all these events going on, if you guys email that, when we send out our email is vbaosu@gmail. If you guys send that information to us, we can make sure to include all that, like all the things you guys were talking about, we can include all of that in the emails that we send out to all the email addresses we got this afternoon. So that way everybody's aware of all these different things going on. Because one of the things we definitely came into that came up in discussion was people are doing different things, you know, whether it's economic or political or social, right? And we want to make sure we can bring all that together and make as many people aware about all the different actions that are being taken place, right? So if you have any events, anything going on, email us at vbaosu@gmail.com and we will make sure to send that out to everybody. Anything else?
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Okay. No. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Also, thank Nicole, seriously, like the sole organizer, we were just trying like little elves helping her out. But this was her vision and all of her hard work. So we're following.